It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It is the first weekend of April. This is the Jill on Money radio show. And oh my God, the last month, if it has not felt like a year to you guys, I don't know. Oof. Just a ton of really rough news. And first, let me start by saying I hope that you and yours are safe and healthy. As we learn more and more about this pandemic, it is abundantly clear that we are all going to start finding ourselves knowing someone who knows somebody, but just probably directly knowing somebody who is impacted by the spread of this virus. And for you all, I am just the economic part aside, the actual health issues are tantamount to what should be most important to all of us. And so I am sending you lots of warm wishes and good health. And please try to practice this social distancing. Don't go out too much. Be careful. Just be smart. And know that you're doing it for you, for your family, for your neighbors, and for everybody else. So since last weekend, we did have this massive $2.2 trillion lifeline from Congress signed by the president. It's called the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And this was a way for lawmakers to provide individuals, small businesses, corporations, municipalities, hospitals with much needed money to cope with the economic fallout from the pandemic. So what I've done is I've got some stuff posted on the website if you want to read. I don't need to go through everything with you. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. But we do have the Pandemic Lifeline under the resource section, or it's in the blog, both places. And we've got some links for you as well. But specifically, individuals are going to be getting some checks if you make less than $99,000. There's great improvements to unemployment benefits, which will be enhanced. So whatever your state plan is, you're going to get extra time and extra money. And this does actually also apply to small business owners. It applies to independent contractors and freelancers. So I know a lot of you have small businesses that you're going to get a ton of help from the government, but it's going to take some time. So this is going to be a critical period for small businesses. And large companies get some money as well, including the airlines. Some other things that are actually in the bill about retirement plans and student loans, very importantly. A lot of you guys have written in about required minimum distributions from retirement plans. And this is incredibly important. You don't have to take required minimum distributions for the calendar year 2020. And the reason is that the government recognized, which you guys all probably recognize, is that the value of your plan is assessed on December 31st of the prior year, and then your distribution is based on that. Well, for a lot of people, the value went down pretty dramatically, and it's a way to make sure you don't have to sell anything this year at a depressed level. Should also know that there are some changes in the way that you can access retirement plans if you have been impacted by the pandemic. We've got the 10% penalty on early retirement withdrawals waived. I don't know if that's the greatest thing for you. So before you do that, please let us know. And for student loans, waiving federal interest and also suspending payments until September 30th. Really important here. So all of that being said, this is a massive bill. So much in there. And so what I think is important is before you are really freaking out, go to the website, jillonmoney.com, go under frequently asked questions, and it's resources, the resource tab. We've got the Pandemic Lifeline resource. We've got a fantastic FAQ from the New York Times. Tara Siegel Bernard, amazing. Great stuff in there. We've got a guide for small business owners, because that to me is incredibly important. It's a direct link to the SBA.gov website. So we're trying to put as much stuff on there for you. And hopefully this will help you out as we gather more information. Look, and I fully anticipate that there are going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be red tape. So we know that. If you're having a problem, shoot us an email. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. Askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's our email address. If you're poking around the website and you're reading something, you don't get it, there's a button in the top right corner. It says contact. Click on the contact button and we will get an email. Okay. And we're getting inundated with emails right now. So just know that we'll get you. We promise. If there's a huge issue and it's time sensitive, let us know. We're happy to talk to you. And Mark is doing an incredible job getting all these emails together. And we've actually launched a separate podcast. So if you want to listen every single day, you want a quick little recap of what's happened for the day, you can listen to the coronavirus market update, the Jill on Money coronavirus market update. We are dropping that every single day in the podcast feed. All you need to do is subscribe to the podcast, Jill on Money. You can get that at Apple or Spotify or Stitcher or radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Just the same name as this show, Jill on Money. And we try to keep it short, but we do answer a ton of questions every single day. Well, I shouldn't say a ton, probably a half dozen questions every day. And maybe we're answering some of your questions. So, all right, that's a lot. Here we go. William writes to us, and we're going to answer a lot more questions here with you guys. William's planning to retire in December of 2021. He will be 62. He's got a pension. He'll receive Social Security. He's got a small 401k. His plan was to draw about $8,000 to $10,000 annually as a supplement. My expenses would be about $3,000 per month. That's about 60% of my monthly take home. Should I take the loss of my 401k at this time or wait it out? I'm an optimist. I feel I can leave it in for 5 years without withdrawing it and wait for the market to bounce back. What are your thoughts, Jill? Bill, I'm with you. I think you should wait, but I have more advice for you. You ready? Bill, you're 62 years old. Any way that you can delay your retirement would be even great. Or yeah, I know we're not talking about a year and a half from now, essentially, but you know what? Keeping yourself busy and working would be fantastic. And obviously, if you wait to retire and you wait to claim your Social Security, your benefit will rise. So maybe that's something to consider. Just saying. But no, I wouldn't do anything with that right now. I really wouldn't. Okay, you are listening to Jill on Money. And by the way, we are broadcasting from the Capital One virtual studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? And if you've got a financial question, you've got an economic question, and you've got a question about what's going on in your life, shoot us an email. AskJill@JillOnMoney.com. That's AskJill@JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, if you've got an economic question, if you've got just a how do I navigate this new weird world we're in, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com, askjill@jillonmoney.com. You know, in this CARES Act, again, this is the big, huge legislation coming down from Washington. Something interesting in it that I noticed that doesn't seem to be getting a lot of, doesn't get a lot of play, but there's something about the expansion of charitable contributions, which to me seems like kind of a fantastic thing. So, one of the things that's interesting here is that people are going to be able to deduct $300 of contributions above the line, meaning you don't have to itemize deductions to get that. And there's also a rule about expanding contributions. People give a lot of money away. So I don't know. Could be kind of interesting time for people if you are lucky enough, fortunate enough to have your job to continue giving money away to those causes that mean the most to you. Obviously, any of the health and hospital systems are going to need money, and also the arts, which are going to really be suffering. So that's something to check out. All right. Okay, we are taking your questions, and we're trying to really do a lot of episodes where we're just answering questions because we have a email box that's bulging. Hey, Mark, how many questions right now do you think we have in the inbox for Jill on Money? Okay, so we're usually like the kind of show we usually have like at any time like 100 in the inbox at any time. We have 500 pretty much every day. We plow through them and then we get more. So we are here to help you. Little bit of time here if you if you're not going to get an immediate answer, but we're here to help. Okay. Cindy writes that we are a young couple looking to buy our first home in Arizona. I'm somewhat confused on how the housing market works during times like these. The market not doing so well because the housing market is rising, and at the same time, interest rate was 5. The grant we call them. Okay, what should we do? Basically, buying a house. Here's the thing with the housing market. I have no idea. We've never had an economy that has stopped dead in its tracks. And I point that out to you not to scare the living daylights out of you. It's because I don't know. I was just talking about this with a friend of mine because we were wondering, is this the one of these periods of time where people who are lucky enough to have jobs are going to buy homes because now there's going to be a home to buy? Our price is going to drop because people need to just get the money. Where are they going to go? So we don't know what's going to happen. But what I would say is this, Cindy, as long as you've run your numbers, I think that what you might be happy to find out is that mortgage rates pretty affordable right now. They are they're bouncing around quite a bit, but I think that I would take my time and be crystal clear that you guys can afford whatever home that you can purchase and that your jobs are secure. If you feel like your jobs are not really as solid as you would have liked, then hold off. There's no reason to do that. Okay? How's that? Okay, here's a note from Tim who writes about half of my retirement income comes from monthly withdrawals from an IRA. As you know, the value of the IRA is dropping daily. Well, that's presuming it's all in stocks. Question: should I stop monthly withdrawals and tap into my liquid assets, savings, maturing CDs, or should I ride it out? I know with each withdrawal, I'm losing more, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to pull money out, then don't. And if you can actually tap your liquid savings, that's great. And even better, at the same time, stop spending as much money if you can. That would even be better. So, in a time like this, I know it's hard, but I would really encourage people who don't need to be spending a ton of money to pull back some. This is a time of scarcity. And I know economists are going to hate that I'm giving this advice, but I'm here to give you the advice that's in your best interest for you. Okay. And you know what? These are times that call for you to really chill out. If you don't have to make a big purchase, if you can delay certain expenses, then delay them. That's just common sense. You know that. Okay. Okay. Question from Gerald. What are your thoughts on structured notes in the present market? I don't know if you have them or you're going to buy them. So I'm not answering that till I know more information. But I mean, structured notes are like it's a riskier form of a quote unquote safe investment. So a structured note is going to be moving around quite a bit. Same like it's just, so funny. When things are tranquil, when markets are not volatile, and interest rates are dropping, things like structured notes, floating rate funds, high yield bond funds, all of these things are sold by uh, people in the investment world as it's just like cash, but better. And guess what? It's not. There's risk involved. So I would be very careful about these. And if you already have them, I don't know what else is in your portfolio. Hopefully, it's not very long. But these are things to really keep in mind. Earl wants to know what's the type and duration of bonds or bond funds you recommend in the current interest rate environment. Earl, I don't know what you got. First of all, does this mean that you've gone like out of your entire stock portfolio and now you're going to finally buy a bond? Does this mean, where is the bond? Is the bond in a retirement account or a non-retirement account? Are you in a high tax bracket or not? Maybe you should be buying municipal bonds. Maybe you should be buying corporate bonds. I don't know. But, bonds come in so many different flavors that, boy, I cannot give you guys blanket advice. Okay? All right. Now, here's something interesting. George writes, I'm concerned about the current situation. We're in our mid 70s, portfolio value of about $1 million. We withdraw about $3,000 per month. Before the virus mess, our allocation was 60% bonds, 35% stocks, 5% cash. Now the stock portion went down to 29%. Should we rebalance, keep it as is, or sell the stocks? Do you usually rebalance now? That's a good question. Do you rebalance once a year? Do you rebalance usually twice a year? Do you have some rules here? I wouldn't really do anything if you usually rebalance maybe once a year and you do it at the end of the year. I would wait. Again, as much as I know you guys hate to hear this, and as much as you probably would like to live your life, if you can afford to not spend that $3,000 a month, if you can make it $2,500, that would be even better. So I'm not sure that I would make a big change right now, but I would adhere to whatever rule you had established previously. And I think that's really the key here, gang, that we have to have rules and we got to stick to our rules. And if you never had a rule, give us a shout and maybe we can talk to you about it. Generally, I think rebalancing once a year is just fine. End of the year, it's a great time to do it. Or at tax time, great time to do it. So let's keep that in mind. If you need some help with that, you need some help establishing the right rules, give us a shout. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if this weekly program is not quite enough for you, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to our podcast? It's the Jill on Money Coronavirus Market Update. All you have to do is find our podcast. You'll find it anywhere you get podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play. Search Jill on Money and subscribe. We are doing daily podcasts and trying to help you make sense of all the news that's emerging. We're also answering questions there. So check it out. Subscribe to the Jill on Money podcast. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
Welcome back. It's Jill on Money, and we are walking you through the financial pandemic. I can't help you with the health pandemic, although I will say that at CBS News, I learned so much from our doctors all the time. John LaPook, Tara Narula, David Agans. My God, it's just amazing. Mark, have you gone full on kind of heightened craziness, or are you just doing wash your hands, social distancing? How are you managing this? Mark has not been outside. What do you mean? The kid you've locked your poor child inside. You haven't even gone taken a walk with the boy? I've been going outside, but I mean, I'm not in the city right now, so I should make sure that you guys know that. But I have been walking every day because I have dogs and because I will go stir crazy. One of my neighbors here in the burbs is full on gone crazy, and he was walking around with a like a canister that looked like a bugs, like he's an exterminator. You know that canister they have, and they've got like a wand. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm spraying every package that comes in here. This is bleach." And I said, "I can't even go there. I can't go that far. So I'm just doing what I can do, washing my hands a ton. I do have a mask. It's true. I don't wear it too much, but when I do have to go out, I kind of put it on, even though I know it's baloney. I almost put it on to remind myself not to touch my face. So wash your hands, don't touch your face, practice social distancing, try not to go stir crazy. Those are all the things that I know. That's about all I can give you. Otherwise, I can give you much deeper and more in depth remarks about your money. And so if you have a financial question, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. I'm going to tell you again, if you're just joining us, I did this at the beginning of the show. If you go to jillonmoney.com to our website, at the top of the page, we've got a resource tab. And if you click on resources, we've got 3 things at the top of this list: the Pandemic Lifeline resource, the New York Times FAQ on the coronavirus bill, and the Coronavirus Guide for Small Businesses. Those are 3 good resources that are available. We'll keep adding to that as time goes by, because it's a like 800-page bill. So who knows? I mean, and as new things emerge, we'll help you with that as well. Okie doke. Jesse says, I'm wondering if I should consider holding off paying my mortgage, auto loans, student loans, and credit cards in this time of hardship. I only have enough cash to cover normal expenses for about a month and a half. Any insight or suggestion on this matter would be greatly appreciated. Well, Jesse, I mean, number one, are you actually negatively impacted by the virus? Have you lost your job? Have you lost hours? What's going on? If you have been, then there's help coming. Now, if you're just kind of juggling everything anyway, first of all, we know that for student loans, you've got forbearance right now, that you do not have to make a payment until through September 30th if those are federal student loans. For everything else, what I would do, I mean, I would certainly do this with your credit card company. I would call them and tell them that you're under pressure, you can't make these payments, and ask for forbearance. I would do the same with my auto loan. I would do the same with my mortgage. But if things are pretty decent and you're just juggling anyway, I might hold off on my auto loans and then try to beef up some of your cash just in case and go from there. Okay, I hope that's helpful. But again, there's going to be a lot of help for those of you who are actually directly impacted by this virus. Um, don't worry about it. You know, you're going to have help, but you're going to have to pay attention. Okay, Joshua writes, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I've got $30,000 coming soon. What's the best way to grow, save, perhaps aggressive? Oh my God, come on. Just keep it safe, please. I need more. I need to know more about you, but I really am much more concerned with like, no, don't like put this money to work. Be careful, you know? Here's a question from Marion. I love your show. Thanks. I live on the dividend from my Chevron stock. It tanked in the last week. What will happen to my dividend? Well, I don't know if Chevron's cut its dividend, but I would suspect that a lot of these oil and gas, these big energy companies are going to start cutting their dividends. Oil and gas sector, energy sector, not included in any of this, in any of the CARES Act, was not one of them deemed as a business that's important. The price of crude oil has plummeted. I mean, it's down by more than 60% this year. So I think that you may see them pull back on their dividends. If possible, I'd love to know more about you so that we can try to see if there's other money you can draw from without using those dividends. But for now, now you're finding out, as everybody does. It's like, as Warren Buffett likes to say, You find out who's swimming naked when the tide turns, right? When the tide goes out, you find out how exposed you are, how much risk you are taking when the tide does turn. So, if I can help you, follow up with some more information, okay? Harold writes, I am 74. My wife left and divorced me last week. Oh my God. Through mediation, I owe her $60,000 over the next year. The house was left to me. A house was left to me as it was an inheritance. The house was valued at $337,000. I can't believe I was like always like freaked out by people who are 70 something years old and getting divorced. But okay, let me get back to the question. In order to pay her, I was thinking of selling the house. Now that COVID-19 is upon us, who knows how long the house will maintain its value? Do you have any suggestions of what should be done? Yeah, Harold, go talk to a realtor and talk to a realtor pronto. Find out what's going on in the market and don't price the house on what you think you should get. Find out what the house can get right now. And don't mess around for this. Really. It's so important to me that people understand that whether it's your investment account, whether it's your house, I don't care what it is. What it was worth is absolutely irrelevant. What's it worth today? Is what somebody is willing to pay for it. And in the stock market, you know that what that is today. Here's what your account is worth today. Forget about what was. You want to take the high watermark of everything? Great. For your house, same thing. Figure out where the market is now and fire sale that house, get the money, pay her off, and move on. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. By the way, divorce, very expensive mistake to make in your life, but I get it. All right, we'll be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are answering your financial questions, your economic questions, your pandemic-related questions as it pertains to your financial life. If you've got a question, just shoot us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's what Fran did. Fran writes, thanks for all of your clear and concise reporting on WCBS Radio. I really appreciate it. And we appreciate you listening to 880 WCBS. Okay, Fran goes on, says, I'm retired with a pension and Social Security and not tapping into my retirement savings at this point. When I met with one of my financial advisors at the end of 2019, he advised me to move a small Roth 403b account of a few investments from AXA Equitable into an account that I have with another financial advisor to invest in American funds. At the time, the account had about $7,200 in it. Now it's down to $5,500. Is this advisable to do now, or should I wait until the markets stabilize? Let's see. Well, I mean, AXA Equitable, I wonder if that's an annuity. It sounds like it's an annuity. And so I've got a couple of questions. Number one, a lot of these AXA products, they're variable annuities. The question is there a fee to get out of it? I would be interested to know that because I'm not really interested in paying for a fee right now. That would be a better thing not to do. And I'm kind of wondering why we have to go to American funds. I mean, I love American funds, but there's going to be a big fat fee to pay into those American funds. I'm more inclined to find out, number one, if there's no fee associated with getting out of the AXA Equitable, since you don't really need this money, can't you just move this into an account with a no fee, low-cost mutual fund company? I'm talking about a Vanguard, a T. Rowe Price, a Schwab, a TD Ameritrade, something like that. That seems to be like a much smarter decision. If I'm wrong and I'm missing something, let me know. But I'd rather not be paying fees certainly at this time. It's a very funny thing when we talk about fees. No one pays attention to fees when markets are going up. But I'll tell you what, if you're now paying 1%, 2% for your cost and your funds are down, boy, that hurts a lot more, doesn't it? I'll tell you, sure does. Okay. Okay. Here's somebody who wants to be kept anonymous. So I'm going to call you Anonymous. Okay. My question: I want to buy some stock or invest money. My situation is I am a flight attendant with United Airlines with 30 years in under my belt. I plan to work 10 to 15 years more. God bless you. Her hours have been cut. I have a townhouse, car paid off, no credit card debt, no debt at all. I have a 401k and a Roth IRA I fund every year. I received 3 years of alimony that ended a year ago, back in May of 2019, and I saved almost all of it. You ready for this, gang? This anonymous flight attendant has $290,000 liquid right now. I am not making any money on my money. My ex-husband managed my money when we were together, but let my Roth IRA get lost, and I was able to find it in an orphan company, blah, 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 after he abandoned me and my 2 kids. I hope he's broke. Okay, sorry, just had to say that. My daughter is a junior in college. She's got a 529 that will fund most of her education. My son is autistic, high functioning, but his future is uncertain. So I have a hard time trusting investment advisors. I'm not educated on investing. In your opinion, what can I do to educate myself so I can invest and make 1020? I don't know what 1020 means. Do you mean so I can, oh, I see. So, so I can make 10 to 20 grand. I would appreciate your help. I know you've been very busy. Thank you in advance. Well, thank you, first of all. Okay. So let's kind of pull back a second. Of the 290 that's liquid, here's my concern. You're a flight attendant, so your job is at risk, obviously. So, number one, I want to make sure that you have at least a year of your expenses socked away. So, whatever we're talking about, if this 290 includes that year of expenses, pull that out. I'm going to pretend that it doesn't. So, I'm going to pretend that I don't know why. I'm just going to make this up, but I'm just for round numbers. Let's presume that you need to keep $90,000 liquid. Maybe you want 2 years set aside. Okay. So set that aside. And now, what are you going to do with the $200,000? I think you need to have a game plan. And my best guess for you is that you've got to work with a fiduciary advisor, meaning someone who will put your best interest first. You can find these folks at NAPFA, NAPFA.org. You can find an advisor at letsmakeaplan.org. That's the CFP website, or the AICPA website, AICPA, and you search under CPA PFS. There are robo-advisors, online advisors at Betterment, at Vanguard Personal Service Advisor, Schwab Intelligent Portfolio, or you can check out Facet Wealth, which is a new company that I've come in contact with. You may want to reach out there because you'll get a dedicated human being and talk it through and see if somebody can help you out with that. But I wouldn't do this by yourself. I do think it would be important for you to try to find someone to work with. If you want, Mark can arrange a call and we would happily keep you anonymous and on the air. Okay. That's it for this segment. Jill on Money, if you've got a financial question, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting from the Capital One virtual studios. Laura writes she loves the podcast. If you want to subscribe to that podcast, don't forget, daily right now, Jill on Money, just search. Okay, Laura's a longtime listener. Listen to my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. And I have a question about Roths. I'm 35 years old. I've been contributing to my Roth IRA for years. My husband's 36, and we both converted our retirements into Roths in 2019. Okay, I was on maternity leave. I converted my 403B to a Roth option. My husband was between jobs in 2019 and transferred his old 401k into a Roth IRA. We made less last year due to these circumstances. A perfect time to convert. Absolutely, positively. Okay, that's good. With the current stimulus packages and thinking back to the Secure Act episode, should I be concerned the government will start taxing my Roths? My dad is in favor of getting the tax benefits now rather than the possibility in the future. We go back and forth about Roths. I'm wondering, was he right? I don't know. I mean, this is like the Ed Slott fear that things could change, but also, you know what? This is the law as it is now. And I do not actually think they're going to start taxing this now. I think that too many people have approached the Roth with the idea of what's going to happen. So I think you're probably okay. And I like the idea of doing it. Steve writes, if the government were to temporarily remove taxing 401k accounts for seniors and small business owners, could that provide a personal lifeline for people to save their businesses? Blah, blah, blah. It would allow for billions of dollars. They could put restrictions on maximum withdrawals. I retired a couple of years ago. I had 1.8 million before the crash. I'm down to 1.3 million. I could pay off my mortgage and loans and plenty to continue to grow for the future. Your thoughts? Hey, Steve, you know what? I wouldn't do that if I were you. And the government has made some changes in allowing people who are impacted by the virus to make some changes. So, Steve, you know what? Certainly the rules on required minimum distributions have changed with the bill that was just passed, and also some of the rules about penalty-free withdrawals have passed. I think that in your case, by the way, what I'd be very clear about is I would not spend that money, that liquidity, to pay down a mortgage. I think that would be a bad idea. If I'm missing something, give me a shout. And thanks for writing. Okay, it's Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's hour number 2 of the Jill on Money radio show. We are broadcasting from the Policy Genius virtual studios. Yeah, virtual, ladies and gentlemen. Mark and I are not in the same place, and we're certainly not in the CBS News Broadcast Center. But we are broadcasting for you no matter what. Policy Genius, by the way, easy way to compare and buy insurance. All you have to do is go to policygenius.com. We've been fielding your questions about what's going on in the financial world, the economy, and specifically a lot of questions that you guys have about the CARES Act. One that I've just been fielding over and over again is who qualifies as a child for these checks that are coming out. So the first thing is that I guess officially these are called recovery rebates. I'm just calling them direct payments from the government. So remember, if you have adjusted gross income under $75,000 as an individual, that's $112,500 if you're head of household, $150,000 if you're married, and you are not the dependent of another taxpayer. Okay, so that's important also. You get $1,200, $2,400 if you're married. And if you're also in those categories, you are eligible for $500 per child. But it was a weird thing because I realized, like, well, what do they mean by a child? So I looked this up, and I found out that the qualifying child is a general description, as what we've seen in other areas of the tax code. It's a child who is a dependent of a taxpayer under the age of 17. How about that? So if you have kids and maybe they're in college, you're not getting the tax credit because chances are you're claiming them as your dependents and you get a little tax benefit there. But the other piece of it is that some of those old, maybe 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they actually are not going to get the stimulus check, they're not going to get the $1,200 direct payment, even though they probably have no income, because you are claiming them as a dependent. So you see, it's very strange. Anyway, so you got to be under the age of 17. Okay. That's very important. And so remember, if you're not using, if you're listening to this and your child is, you're not claiming that kid as a dependent, then um, essentially they can probably get the rebate amount, that $1,200. Okay. And again, if you have a IRS account or you get Social Security direct deposited, basically you're not going to do anything. The IRS is just going to use the information on record, Social Security system, the information on record, and it's going to be direct deposited to you. So that's good. I also found something that was interesting. There was some question about if you have a debt that's due to a federal or a state agency, or if you owe back taxes, would the amount of the money you receive just get diverted and taken away? No. Basically, the bill is basically turning off all of the administrative offsets that might reduce your amount. So that's really important. I think it should be very important to all of us. Anyway, we want you to keep sending us your questions. And the email address here is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Askjill@jillonmoney.com. And don't forget, we do have a new daily podcast. Actually, it's the old podcast, but we have now started presenting daily episodes because we're getting swamped with your email questions. All you have to do is subscribe to Jill on Money. Anywhere you get podcasts, if you don't know how to get a podcast, grab somebody who does. It's very easy. Go to Apple. Maybe you listen to music on Spotify or Stitcher or radio.com or Google Play, anything like that. Type in Jill on Money and subscribe, and you will not miss an episode. Okay? So let us know how we can help you out. Matt writes, I heard your show on Stacking Benjamin a few months ago, and I've been binging it ever since. Thanks. We love Stacking Benjamin's a good guy. Like many others, my family sees a pending cash crunch coming. I'm still working, but I make less than my spouse. Her dental employers have shut down their office. They don't know when they'll be able to reopen. They suggested that everyone claim unemployment, and it seems that we may not be able to rely on any income from them in the short to midterm unless something changes and they reopen. As far as I can tell, unemployment is capped at $350 per week in my state, though I've seen that additional $600 per week in federal in the stimulus bill. Because of our income, it seems that we are ineligible for the stimulus aid checks. We don't spend lavishly, except we do pay for private school tuition. $4,000 per month? That would be lavish to me. Okay, no wonder you don't spend lavishly, because that's crazy. Mortgage payment is $4,000 as well, so $8,000 a month right there. Emergency fund was depleted recently due to renovations to our home. So I am now estimating that we'll be out of money by late May, assuming that my wife gets no income at all, and we continue to pay off all our obligations. We're 40 years old. After the drop in the market, we have retirement savings around $600,000, including $85,000 in Roth savings, of which about $30,000 of our contributions could be tapped, though I have no idea how to find out exactly how much was contributions. We've been ineligible to make standard Roth contributions for the last 6 years. We also have about $75,000 remaining in 529 college savings plans after the drop. We are living well within our means and saving. The timing of this has hit us poorly. I'd rather not touch any investments. Is there anything in these moving parts that I've missed? Oof. So yeah, the extra $600 a week is going to help. Okay, so first of all, I think we don't have to worry about private school tuition right now, but maybe what you should do is think about using the 529 plan for private school tuition, because you can do that now because the law changed. And so maybe you tap that now if you consider that that's a real priority. I would let your mortgage lender know that you are dramatically impacted by this pandemic, and seek some forbearance, see if you can at least wait a few months. Maybe you can get a 90-day reprieve. I'm not sure your state of residence, but there are some states that are encouraging mortgage providers and landlords to give people some time. Other than that, I'd be interested. Yes, I mean, you should bet, probably taking the money out of the Roth, because that won't have any, there won't be any penalty for that as a possibility. But I'm wondering also in your retirement savings whether it might make sense for you to get a loan. There is and again, I don't know how steady your own income is yourself. But maybe if you give me a little bit more information, also tell me what's the actual outstanding mortgage loan, what's the value of the home. That might be something to take a look at. But this is a terrible situation. I'm awfully sorry that you're going through it. I think that we're just trying to do a little triage here in everybody's lives who have been touched by this. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are getting through this gruesome period together. Just want to remind you that on our website, jillonmoney.com, we've got all the segments that I've been doing on various programs in the CBS News family. I'll tell you, the one that was just rough to do for me was that retail one where you hear about all the layoffs, the furloughs. Macy's, 125,000 people. Kohl's, 85,000. Gap, 80,000. It's a lot. So we're trying to keep up with that. Mark's been posting the segments almost as quickly as I do them. We've got lots of different stuff for you to read, but I think the most important section that we're trying to beef up right now is our resource section, where we have information about pandemic lifelines. We've got a link to the New York Times fantastic FAQ on the coronavirus bill. We've got a link straight to the SBA. I'm going to try to do a little bit more for small business probably this weekend, so we'll try to get that up there, as well as all the other resources. But just want to make sure you have that, so you know that we are here for you, trying to make sense of a incredibly difficult time. So let's get back to your questions, because I know Mark is desperately trying to keep up with the inbox, which is bulging as we speak. Brian writes that he is 61, his wife is 59. Most of our retirement savings is in our 401k. Over the last 2 to 3 years, we've adjusted our asset allocation from 70 stocks, 20 bonds, 10% cash to 62 to 65% stocks, 22 to 25% bonds. Anyway, they essentially upped their safer stuff. They reduced their stock holdings. And right, he says, prior to the market downturn, there were 62% stocks, 22 bonds, 16 cash stable value. With the market downturn due to COVID-19, the value has dropped about 23%. Now, I just want to be clear that Brian sent this in the middle of the week, about a week and a half ago, so hopefully things have gotten better. And he's asking about rebalancing. I think that here's what I think. I think that when we consider rebalancing in general, you should have a rule. And that rule should probably be that once a year, twice a year, or 4 times a year, whatever you want to choose, doesn't really matter all that much, that you conduct a rebalancing. I don't think it makes sense to rebalance unless there is, you're not that far off from your allocation. You went from 62% stocks to 56% stocks. I'd rather do it based on time of year rather than percentage deviation from your target allocation, because I think that you can really find yourself spinning your wheels that way, and it requires way more work. So if it's the end of the quarter and now you feel like, okay, I got to rebalance, go ahead and rebalance. But other than that, I would just stick to whatever schedule that you have established. And again, could be quarterly, could be semi annually, could be annually. Okay. Clay writes that 30 years old, I earn $90,000 annually. I've paid off all but $2,500 in student loans. Wow, that's great. I've built up an 8-month emergency fund. Outside of that, I've got about $25,000 in cash, and I've been meaning to start investing because I don't have a set use for this money within the next few years. I'm looking at using Wealthfront, Betterment, etc. And I want to make sure this isn't a totally crazy time to do that. My job is stable and I contribute 18% to my 401k between my portion and the employer match. Thanks for the daily podcast slash financial therapy. Well, I think first and foremost, why not? You're not going to end up paying any interest right now on those student loans, or at least for the next couple of months. So let's knock those out, right? Just get it done. You're done, like in the next couple of months. Make sure that you save an 8-month fund. That seems okay. I mean, it could be 8 months, it could be 10 months, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I don't have one real horse in the robo advisor race. I mean, there is Betterment, there is Wealthfront, as you note. There's Vanguard Personal Service Advisor. There is Schwab Intelligent Portfolio. And there's just essentially just throwing your money into one of the handful of these firms that offer no low cost index funds. So for most people, it's simply a matter of which interface you like better. Maybe if you have a 401k that's like at Vanguard, I'd use Vanguard, but all these, they're pretty much all the same. There's not a big enough difference among all of them for me to choose one or the other. But I think the real issue when you're asking about, is it a crazy time? No, it's a great time. Just know that I'm sure the day after you start investing, all hell's going to break loose. So I only say that as a warning, it just is likely. That's how these things do tend to go. Julio writes, I'm a huge fan of your work. I listen to your daily podcast. I've read your book. I've got 2 questions. The first is, how should I diversify? Okay. The second is, should I deposit extra money in the ETFs I have now that the market is down, or should I continue to dollar cost average? I'm 30, single, several Charles Schwab accounts. I've been getting my financial life together after reading your book and listening to the podcast. Looking forward to hearing from you or Mark to help me. Thanks in advance. Well, okay. So if you've got some exchange traded funds, the way that you would diversify is you think of big, broad asset classes. So there's cash, there's bonds, there's stocks. And you could divvy up all of those pieces even more. It kind of depends on how much money you have. If it's a small amount of money that you're just getting started with, then you take a broad index fund, a broad bond index, and a cash fund. And then as the money starts building up, you might add a couple of other kind of subcategories. So you might say, I'm going to do a large US stock index fund, and then I'm going to do a global index fund. I'm going to do a broad-based bond fund, but then maybe I'm going to throw in another kind of bond fund, maybe a international bond fund. But it really depends a lot more on how much money you have and whether it's really worth it to be adding lots and lots of ETFs, because some of them, it's sort of like the luxury thing. You want to get the basics covered, but assuming you have the basics covered, then maybe we can go from there. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that we're getting these kinds of questions where people are basically very cognizant that there are really great opportunities right now. It's a nice way to balance the ones that are people who are scared and losing their income. So I totally understand both sides, but follow up with us and let us know. Here's a question from Ruth, who's 77 years old, but still works part-time. She does that so I do not have to withdraw from my $500,000 retirement portfolio. I was teaching part-time at 4 hospitals as an independent contractor. Now with the virus, my teaching jobs have been canceled. Thus, I do not qualify for unemployment insurance. Why not? What do you mean canceled? Independent contractors can actually file for unemployment now. That's under the new CARES Act. So that's number one. Um, she has a small savings account with 20 grand in it, so don't withdraw that. Keep that as is. But I would be first, see if you can at least try to get your unemployment. And the second aspect of this is you will probably get a check for $1,200. And last but not least, you could start to take some money out of your retirement account. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but um, don't presume that you can't get unemployment because you're in this pool that that expanded the benefits, which is temporary folks, contractors, sole proprietors. So you may actually get some unemployment. So I would please, before you start pulling money out of your retirement account, for sure be clear. Now that said, you're 77 years old. You have to take your required minimum distribution. So you're already taking money out of that, but don't blow through those liquid assets, that $20,000. Okay. All right. You're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions. Shoot us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are trying to help you make sense of an incredibly stressful time. I was just listening to a podcast where they had a relationship, not a marriage counselor, but just a shrink who really specializes in couples work, and talking about the pressures that both people being home and working together and everyone in a household, like the amount of pressure it puts on everybody. So you're not alone. Mark, did I tell you about our way of dealing with this? I don't know if I gave you this neat little workaround, but my niece and nephew, who are married and have 2 kids and they're home, they came up with this idea that the way that you can sort of manage your own anger towards your spouse is to pretend you're working in an office environment and come up with like some other person in the office that you hate so much more than the person who you're married to or partnered with. And so you make up a name. So for us, we have my name of my most hated person in the office is Nancy. So when I feel a little anger at my spouse, instead of snipping, I think to myself, "Ugh, that Nancy's the worst." And so anyway, that's our workaround. So sometimes when I'm in the kitchen and doing something loud, and we have 2 dueling conference calls going, and I get shot the look. I know that look is, "Oh, I hate Nancy too." So that's how we are doing it. Mark, you know why I picked that name, right? Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Mark, I won't even say that because that person who might even listen to this program, my Nancy certainly does not. Most assuredly does not. But the person I liked the least in my work life, Nancy. That's the name. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Mila writes, "Hi, Jill. Can you talk about how I should think about changing my investments with robo-advisors who are managing my money? I'm 33. I've paid off my student debt, and I foresee being financially secure through a corona-induced recession. As a passive investor, I've got a third of my net worth, 100,000, in a Wealthfront account. It's invested in ETFs, exchange traded funds. I'd like your advice on whether it's a good idea to buy the dip, invest more into a passive portfolio, or should I be cautious, lower my risk tolerance from 6.5 on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most risky before doing so." I would not lower your risk tolerance at all. You're young, you're healthy, life is good. So if you're 33, if you want to buy the dip and essentially put more money into that account, that's great. But I wouldn't change your risk tolerance, because your risk tolerance is really predicated on a longer term vision of what you really feel like you can manage. So if your risk tolerance right now is a 7 or an 8, don't mess with it. If you feel fine, that's great. If you want to invest more, then put more money into the account. But I wouldn't sort of end run it that way. I would be much more content with you just putting more money in if you can. Okay? Andrew writes that he retired from the local county at the end of last year. I'm 59. While the pension is good, I wanted to use my 457 plan. That's a 457 is a state retirement plan. It's like a 401k, but for municipal workers. He wanted to use his 457 to make life a little easier. My intention was to put the money into funds that would generate income. The plan was to skim the interest off to use as walking around money without using the principal. I was told by the local rep of the firm running the program that I could not remove the funds out of the program until I was 59 and a half, although I could withdraw them prior to that, and then I could turn it into an IRA. Everything seems good, right? Okay. At that point, I could invest it any way I please. He told me I had to set up a withdrawal program. He didn't seem to understand that I didn't want to withdraw money in the conventional sense. So, was the information I was given about my 457 accurate? Secondly, can I do my plan of skimming the interest? I have a Roth IRA and a taxable brokerage account, so this is not all my savings. I enjoy your show. Let's just talk about this because you've got three. Let's think of your big picture. First of all, you're really young. You're 59. And so your money needs to last you for 30 years. So with the pension, you want to use a little extra money. What I would do is I would not pull money out of your 457 plan because I think that what you have to know is that, of course, once you turn 59 and a half, then you don't have to pay any penalties. And by the way, you don't have to pay any penalties right now anyway, if you were probably, if you're everyone listening who's impacted by the virus. But you do have to pay tax and you have a pension, which leads me to believe you're still in a decent tax bracket. So I think that ideally we'd rather look at the taxable brokerage account as the fund that would be your walking around money. Then we could delay tapping into the 457 plan. And the last fund that you would look at would be the Roth IRA because it's already been taxed. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe if you could follow up with a breakdown of how much money is in each. You don't have to move these funds, but I'd be interested to know where is the 457 right now. It might make sense to roll over and turn that into an IRA rollover account wherever you hold your Roth IRA. But again, I'd be much more interested in knowing how much money is in each of these accounts and whether we can delay paying taxes on that 457 plan. So you don't have to. I mean, you can there's no official program that you have to set up. You can just pull money out however you wish to pull it out. So I wouldn't go too crazy, but let's follow up with a little bit more information. Does that make sense? Oh gosh, I can't speak today. Okay, last one before the break. Susan is retired. She's 62, married, budgeted for 40 years. Nest egg is over. Wait for it, gang. $10 million. We live comfortably on 120 grand a year. When our nest egg was half of that, we agreed to have $1 million in safe money CDs, $1 million in real estate, the rest invested. We're doing backdoor conversions every year. Should we increase our safe money now that our nest egg has grown so much? If it makes you feel better. I mean, this is a real rich person problem to have. God bless you for having it. Sounds like you've done a really good job. I don't think you really need that. I mean, you don't necessarily need to increase the safe money, but if you feel like that's going to help you sleep better at night, then sure, you could do that. You're living well within your means based on all the money that you have saved. So congratulations to you guys. Okay, let's go. We got another break. During the break, hop onto the website, JillOnMoney.com, and you can just always click the contact button from there if you've got questions. Okay, we'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And I just got a note directly from Andrew Saul. Do you know who that is? I didn't know his name either. It's a commissioner of Social Security. It really wasn't a note. I'm on a distribution list. And Andrew Saul reminds us that Social Security and supplemental security income, all the benefit payments, will continue to be paid on time during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is important, though. The agency reminds everyone to be aware that there are scammers who are trying to take advantage of the pandemic. They're trying to trick people into providing personal information or payment via retail gift cards, wire transfers, internet currency, or by mailing cash to maintain Social Security benefit payments or to receive economic impact payments from the Department of Treasury. Guys, be on the lookout. I mean, I know it's horrifying to imagine, but there are just some really awful people out there. Really awful. So we want to just remind you, please, please, please don't fall for that. Okay? Okay, this is from Mark, who's a fan of my weekly column in the Chicago Tribune, because he says, you seem to have a good perspective on the market. You provide timely advice for your readers. I usually don't pay much attention to the stock market, but the pandemic has made me concerned about my 403B. I went online. I noticed the value of my investment has gone down significantly since 2019. So just to give you an idea here, this guy has a couple $100,000, lost $62,000 on paper. Should I contact my financial planner and ask her to move my investments to less aggressive allocation? Okay. So let's see what we got here. I'm looking and seeing. Hold on a second. I also noticed a drop in the value of our son's 529. Should we continue to ride it out? He's a senior in high school, and we're planning to use these funds soon. Did you hear that, Mark? I did one of those tisks. I went, okay. You screwed yourself a little bit, okay? And here's why. You should not have had your money so growth-oriented, considering you were going to use the funds soon. So here is my recommendation. If you don't need to pull the money out in, say, until maybe the sophomore year versus freshman year or anytime soon, I might start to diversify it and put it into some other investments and hope maybe you could use it for junior and senior year of college. But right now, I'm sorry to say, if you were planning on yanking 40 grand out for next year's tuition, you have to go to cash right immediately. Really depends on what you are planning to do with this money. And as far as your 403B, let's see, we've got some bonds, let's see, 8, I'm just looking, 8, 13. I don't know how old you are. It looks to me like you got a little bit too much money that is aggressive. This is, if you are not going to need this money for 10 or 20 years, then okay, I'm fine. But if you're really, the reason why you're feeling pain is that this is a pretty aggressive portfolio. And I'd have to know a little bit more about other things in your life. If you've got a 403B, I'm hoping that that means you're also entitled to a pension later down the line. And maybe you don't need this money all at once. And maybe you're not going to even need to tap this for quite some time. But I don't know, gang, we are all learning that these aggressive or even growth portfolios, they really hurt on the way down. I thought we learned this lesson already in 2008 and 2009, but I guess it's all, I guess it's a little investor amnesia. Anyway, Gail writes that she's from Michigan. She moved back to her home state about a year ago. She's got investments, an IRA, and a variable annuity. Between the two, I've lost 20 grand in 3 weeks. So I froze them. I put it into cash until things settle down. Then I'll go back in. Sadly, the day after I put my investment into cash, the market's doing better. I'm waiting before I go back in. Do you have an inkling for how long I could start looking to invest again? I know no one has a crystal ball. I thank you for your time. I hope to hear from you. Take care. With little rabbits, little Easter rabbits, I think. Okay. Gail, I don't know when the market's going to settle down. What I do know is I get that you were freaked out, but there's no there's no settle down. We won't know until after the fact. And so what I would be encouraging you to do is to try to create a balanced portfolio, get your money back invested, and don't make yourself crazy. It depends really when you need this money, but I'm hopeful that you don't need it for a while. So sort of like the previous one. But guys, I don't know. You think I have a crystal ball? And everyone says that. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I don't know. I don't know when this is going to shake out. When you read my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money, chapter 13 is one of the dumb things the smart people do with their money is they try to time the market. Guess what? I tried to do that and I failed. So I don't do that anymore. I really don't think it's worth it. And so if you're thinking you know when to get in or out or how to navigate these things, I mean, God, come on. We don't know. We just don't know. All right. It's Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions. Hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com. Right there, you can buy the book. You can check it out. The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. While you're there, you can subscribe to our podcast. It's daily now. It's called Jill on Money. You can get it on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Okay, we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we finish out the program, I want to remind you that we have been broadcasting from our remote studios, the Policy Genius remote studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Go to policygenius.com. Carol writes that my daughter is a high school senior. She's applied to 17 colleges. Good Lord. Admitted to 9, waitlisted at 6. Over the several years, her college fund has grown to a little over $200,000. It recently took a hit of $50,000. For financial reasons, she may choose to attend one of the large state universities in California. However, her heart has always been set on attending a small liberal arts college, as that is more aligned with her temperament. Most of these cost $70,000 per year for tuition, 1 or 2 offered some merit scholarship, but the East Coast liberal arts colleges don't give much in the way of financial aid or merit. Being a California girl, going to college on the East Coast may be the only time she had an opportunity to experience East Coast life. I recently heard a college financial planner say that subsidized student loans have very low interest rates right now. Getting a student loan and using it for the first year of college while giving the student's 529 college plan a chance to recover could be a good strategy. When, and hopefully not if, the college fund recovers, the student could repay the loan with no penalty before she needs to start paying back the loan after her graduation. Our small business had to close recently due to COVID-19. Due to my husband's health issues, our business has been suffering for a couple of years prior to closing. I don't see things improving much once this quarantine is over. I always plan to continue to contribute to our daughter's college fund so that she could have the college experience she has been dreaming of for so many years without having to incur debt. But our savings and retirement funds have also taken a hit, so we are not in the position to contribute anymore to the 529. What are your thoughts on a subsidized low-interest loan and a potential rebound in the market over the next 4 years so my daughter's college fund can recoup its losses? Thank you for the comforting and sound financial advice you have been offering. Carol. Okay, Carol, I think that using a loan is fine, but at the end of the day, I really do think choosing a cheaper school is going to be better for her. I think there's a lot of pressure you put on yourselves. I think if you can just pay for this, who knows? Maybe she wants to go to grad school. Maybe you're going to need that money. So I would say I'm voting with my wholehearted and East Coast liberal arts college sensibility and telling you, please don't pay too much for college. Okay, that's it. That's the show. Don't forget, go to jillonmoney.com all week long. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Jill on Money. We are dropping daily episodes. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you on the radio next week.